Hi, welcome back to the Wildling Podcast. I once again have my bestie, Brittany, and this time we're going to talk about relationships a little bit because we're on a bit of a time crunch, and this is a big topic that we can definitely keep coming back to. So, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the breadcrumbing?
Yeah, I just learned that term today. I was like, what the hell is that? But then it should be obvious what it is, but I'm like, I want to make sure I understood that definition. Like, what the hell is breadcrumbing? But I mean, it's exactly what you think it is.
Yep,
I
I've
mean,
been through it.
like where the person gives you like some small affection, small things, but ultimately isn't committing to anything. And they kind of
Yep.
lead you along and but they never commit. So they're just giving you little tidbits here and there. And that happens a lot, I think. I mean, going back, I mean, I've been married 15 years, but I met my husband online. And I remember online dating back then, and it was kind of like that. You always just get little breadcrumbs because, at that time it was really early on. And there were a lot of people pretending to be other people. That's what the internet's for, not to be yourself.
Like in a
And
catfishing way or just in a presenting inauthentic
I
way?
think catfishing, like honestly, a lot of
Mm.
catfishing was going on back then, even before it was really, I think, called catfishing. I mean, by the definition of the word. I mean, it's because like it was early internet, and I mean, it was mid 2000s, but really, that's when online dating really took off. I mean,
Yeah.
so like chat rooms and things, like people could pretend to be whoever they wanted to be. They could give you anybody's picture.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on, but I hadn't heard the term breadcrumbing before, so I was like, that's fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, it sucks to go through because I need to close this a little bit.
You're going blind.
It's blinding me.
But you need the sun. It's like giving you a little ray.
I
Oh,
do. I'm like a cat in the sunspot right now, but I
move.
can see now.
Yay!
But yeah, the breadcrumbing thing is it's a manipulation tactic and it is brutal because if I am not treating you very well, but I know that, like, for example, you really love to get flowers, and you're like at your point of, I'm gonna leave you because you are treating me so bad and I cannot do this anymore. You're not meeting my needs. And I see that, so I bring you flowers. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, here, but see, things are so great. And, I gave you these pink carnations when red roses are your favorite, but I gave you flowers.
Yeah.
And that's one example of breadcrumbing is just because that's not much. Like, what does that really change? Nothing. It's baiting you. It's like give
Mhm.
you just enough, just a little teensy bit of hope. And
And
then
for what? A lot of times, especially
this.
online dating, like for what? For what? Like,
So
what are you getting? If you're not actually dating in person and you're online dating, 'cause it's like, a lot of people do for quite a while before they meet. And I'm like, but you're not getting like, and if you're not getting any physical, maybe you're just getting compliments.
well, I think for that, it could be for the just the whole mind manipulation, and that is their like accomplishment to them. That's
Yeah.
they're getting off on it, really like, aha, I got them. Like a power trip. But if anybody's trying to just there's so many people as well that are making like connections in that way with AI. It's like just have a relationship with AI then. Leave the real people alone.
Exactly. And I'm like, but what does that say about someone's self-worth? Like going into a relationship, like you need to have some self-worth. You need to know what it is you want. I think that's a hard
Absolutely.
thing, especially for women, young girls. Like, what kind of examples do they have? They don't have good examples anymore. I know because we treat treat relationships like they're dispensable.
Mm.
Like you can find another one. You know, you can throw this one away, pick up another one. It's that easy to find, which it really isn't that easy to find. I mean,
Yeah.
obvious, you know, and to to actually work on staying in a relationship, it takes a lot of work. And so like I go back to like why would somebody choose like I don't they're not choosing to be breadcrumb, but they're like manipulated into being breadcrumbed, you know? And like at what point do they recognize that tactic and say I won't accept it? But they don't. A lot of them don't until they're hurt. And then they're like, oh, he did this to me or she did this to me. Because I think more women are probably capable of it than anything nowadays. Um, especially with all these apps out here, you know, it's just, it doesn't even have to be a dating app. It can be TikTok or, you know, just apps where they can show a little bit to get something out of it, you know?
Yeah. Um, I think when you are on the receiving end of getting breadcrumbed, that usually starts happening after they've already got you, like
Yeah.
to the point where you're emotionally invested somehow,
Yeah.
because that's how abusive and toxic relationships last. They create a trauma bond, they create a fantasy that doesn't exist, and then they don't deliver. And they learn how to manipulate you. They learn what you like. They mirror you because you have these great qualities. And sometimes they even mirror aspects of their exes because they had great qualities as well. And women, well, speaking as a woman, obviously it works on both sides, all sides, but um, it's it really does feel like once the rose-colored glasses come off, if you're not recognizing it soon enough, then it really sucks because you look back on it like, I was bamboozled and I really fell for that. And that is a difficult piece to deal with, is your own part in it.
Yeah.
And that's also where this is not really necessarily with breadcrumbing in particular, but just toxic relationships. Seeing women on TikTok that will post their significant other doing something, just fuck shit, where you're just like, wow, he's terrible. And then they come back and defend him, like, oh no, he's actually really great. Like, yeah, he was screaming at me and calling me names, but he's actually a really good partner. And he picked up his socks today. So, I mean, we're doing great today.
Well, we'll
And
take his socks being picked up, and that's okay.
and everybody in the comments is like,
Come
okay,
on, really?
okay, like you're
Brainwashed at this.
clearly in a bad relationship, but you're defending it, so whatever.
Yeah,
You,
at some point you have to just let it lie because like
yeah.
they choose to be in that relationship. Whether they it takes a lot to recognize it and you know, but that has to be between them and themselves, you know. I
Mhm.
mean, depends on if like he's hitting her or like that person's abusive, like
Some of them
physically,
defend that too.
and you can see it and you're like, hello, like because a lot of them hide it anyway, but
Yeah.
like if you could physically see it, like there's a difference like in stepping in versus like letting them like stepping in a way to protect them from like obviously like being offed. But again, they still have to choose to leave because
Yeah.
they could go back to them quite easily. Um, and
And
is it
that,
a choice? I don't know. I mean, sometimes it isn't a choice. It's like life or death. They just have to do it. Um, I was thinking there's a question that came up, and it's like, has technology made relationships more accessible or more superficial? And I thought that was an interesting question. Like,
probably
accessible.
both.
I think it's a little bit of both. And it also depends on like the motivations of the person or persons seeking the relationship. Like for me, I'm super extroverted, but like again, I've become more insular in my selection of who I hang out with in person. which makes it harder because I want more connection elsewhere. So I look for connections elsewhere, like online. But I find that a lot of those people don't get very deep. So it's like superficial and it's maybe fulfilling a little bit of what I need, my needs, but it doesn't like fully feel satisfying. It's not fulfilling as much as like an in-person relationship that I would have had. Different
Yeah.
for me and you, where we live apart and we haven't been around each other for a while, but we have actual like deep interconnection.
Hmm.
And so I do struggle. I think it's a little bit of both. And sometimes the superficial is nice when you really just need a little bit of reassurance because like people that you don't know are like sometimes just willing to say, "Hey, I'm here for you. Hey, da 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 da." Da." And they don't have to know you. They just have to be like, "I know what you're going through," or "I know like I can agree with you on this or that." So, but has it created to some extent, it has very superficial like dating. I would say if for like a romantic relationship, it's created a lot of superficial clout.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And I think it's even worse for like the male brain is different than the female brain, and they get brain rot from like following OF creators and porn and the Insta models and all the things, and it really genuinely changes their brain. And so they need to be aware of that and vigilant to not fall into that
yeah,
trap because they absolutely can. It's interesting because even if women were to watch, that kind of stimuli, it doesn't affect our brains in the same way. It's like it's just kind of whatever for us. But
yeah,
it affects them in such a different way. And so it really is a problem when, and everybody's different. Like, I wouldn't want to date somebody that is following other women and watches adult films and stuff like that because I know the implications of that
yeah,
and how quickly that can never be enough because it's that dopamine hit and they constantly are chasing that dopamine. And so it can start innocently as just like, well, this is, just regular stuff and I'm getting off to this, but then that dopamine hit's going to run out and then that's going to not be enough and then they have to go on and escalate to something more and different.
yeah.
Just that constant thing where it becomes a big problem. But then there are people that don't care. It's like, whatever. I see it as just, it's an online thing. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. But that is part of that accessibility piece where it's just
Yeah,
like they are everywhere.
yeah,
And to a point where if somebody's just looking for hot women online, you don't even have to go to adult sites. You don't have to go to social media. You can just go shopping online and find it. Like they could
hmm,
get it anywhere. So
yeah,
you're never going to be able to police that with somebody. They have to have that integrity in themselves
yeah,
to not do that. And a lot of people don't, unfortunately. But it also creates that feeling in their partner of usually, not always, but usually it can create that, well, I'm never going to be enough for them because they're always exposed to these baddies. They're showing their best selves.
yeah,
And he sees me when I first wake up, no makeup, in my baggy PJs, look like Adam Sandler look. And so obviously that's not probably not going to turn him on. And then he gets on his phone and he's saying ass. So that does create problems in a lot of ways. And sometimes that's, well, the grass is going to be greener because, this is what this one looks like over here. Or I've got 15 girls on Snap.
yep. And they don't have any expectations other than,
Yeah. It also feeds into that whole transactional issue.
hmm,
which is a big problem because it's like it's you're not a prostitute. A date is just a date. It's not like, oh, I buy
You
you
don't have to get put out
right.
to
And
be on a date.
some of them, especially the ones with brain rot, think that, oh, well, if I buy her dinner, I'm gonna get something out of it. Like, go get a hooker then. Like, that's what you're really looking for. She can buy
Yeah.
her own damn salad, you know, pasta, whatever. Like,
What
she can
happened to
buy that
women's lib?
herself.
What happened to women's lib? You know, we're supposed to be independent and everything. Not making us look very good. You
No,
know,
the women
not
that
at all.
do that, and I don't mean like there are some that are coerced into it and they don't feel safe and it is like forced on them. So not them, but the ones that just go right into hookup culture like it is no big deal is making it very difficult for everyone else, for sure.
Yeah. And that like segues into like, how do you know, like, how do you know you found the right person with all this crud in the way? Like, how do you know you met a genuine person when all you have is all, I mean, if you just take out the internet, even sometimes you don't even know the person because there's
Yeah.
just so much going on. I mean, modern dating is like mix of online and in person. It's not just in person anymore. It's just like, and so how do you make it more genuine? You know, because like once my husband and I like met, we started dating in person, and we did, you know, we dated for you know, we did all our in person stuff. We didn't do it and did anything online after we met, so it wasn't like it is now, where it's like both. Well, let's do this online. Let's do this in person. No, like, no, it was all in person. So, like, I feel like there's obviously physical mentality versus like pretend reality up here in the cloud. And so, like, how does like I mean, like, because like everybody wants to meet that one person that like. And maybe not. Like, I'm not speaking for anybody that's in a polyamorous or open relationship. I'm talking for people that are like want a monogamous relationship. And that I don't judge anybody on what choice they choose to live, because there is lots of ways to be happy. And that's a whole nother like segue of like, are we meant to be monogamous? I don't know. I for sure don't know. There's so much different information out there that maybe we aren't meant to be monogamous. I mean, some people live a long time, and obviously people die. So, you know, they aren't necessarily meant to be with one person forever or like with their one soulmate, but like I think all of us want to believe in a soulmate, and I believe in somebody meant to be with us, that one person, for like a long period of time. And so, is it a comforting concept? Is it nice to think that there's one person out there, or like persons out there for us, the right person? And then we've had this conversation. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, I obviously am in a committed monogamous relationship for a long time, and I'd say that for me, he's my person. Would I say that yet? Is he my soulmate? I don't know. Like, but is he the person? Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, we communicate really well, and we've talked about this in the other podcast. It's we just meshed really well. We had some of the same values, and when I went to have a relationship, like we started talking, I stated up front what I was looking for because I did not know how to date. I didn't have a lot of experience dating, and I had done like the whole wham bam, thank you, ma'am period of time in my early, like my 1920s, and after I'd come back from Iraq and gone overseas, and I did like a quick enjoy myself fun time, but then I realized I was looking for more than that. I wanted somebody that wanted to date me, and we wanted to go out and have a good time and spend quality time together and learn about each other. And so when Eric and I started talking, it was just like a good fit. And when we met, and like the connection was really there. And it may not be that for everybody, and it may not be everything all at once, because it really wasn't. It took time. Like, there were certain things that took time, and but And I think that sometimes the concept of soulmate is a little convoluted. Like it doesn't happen all at once. It's not like a zing, like some movies make it a zing, or like some sort of like you just know. Like I don't know if I just knew. I knew I liked him and that we had a lot of like we were compatible in a lot of ways, but we're also very different in a lot of ways, and you know that.
Hmm.
But I think that's what makes it work for us is that I'm a firm believer in that we should both have be like autonomous in our own ways, but also have things in common. And we should each be able to be independent, but also be together.
Hmm.
And we both have our own hobbies, and we, you know, to to most of the degree, we have some of the same belief systems. We're not necessarily all the same, but we've been able to agree on most things, even parenting. And so is it a learning process as we evolve as people? Yeah, absolutely. And do I tell people that people evolve even in their marriage? So they may change and their partner may not change with them or vice versa. And that is one of the things I think reason why you see a lot of people get divorced because one partner changes and the other cannot or chooses not to or chooses to not acknowledge that people actually grow,
Yeah.
like especially in your really really traditional marriages where the man is the breadwinner and the woman is the homemaker, but the woman decides she wants to like get educated and like maybe make her own money doing something, and she's not necessarily at home a lot anymore. She's, especially as her if her kids age or whatever, at some point she doesn't need him as much anymore. And this can work in a female to female role, a the female's the breadwinner role and the man's in the so this can work in any role. But like people change.
Yeah.
We're creatures that are constantly learning and evolving. And so for us to be stagnant, I think is just unhealthy and not practical. Like as we talked about in the mental health side, like I finally over so many years have just like really felt myself finally because of changes I made. And I think we are we are creatures of habit, but is inevitable, and we are going to change. We change when we have children, like our bodies change, our physical features change as we age. Like we're just going to change 100%. And so when your partner is not on board with that and or does not just kind of even if they don't want to change themselves but accept the changes in you, okay, but they have to be also willing to understand that it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's not evil, it's a necessary.
And to keep that communication piece too, because that's where a lot of people lose the relationship is they lose the communication.
Hmm.
And sometimes, yeah, they do get interest in somebody else, even if it's not one person, like a coworker
Yeah.
or just someone online can spark that curiosity. And if they're not in a relationship where they could talk about those things,
Hmm.
then it's gonna just fall apart at some
And it might
point.
not even be romantic that they're interested. I think relationships can fall apart because they stop giving attention in general. Like if they're
Yeah.
just about a hobby and they spend more time doing that hobby than spending time with you, like at some point you're just going to be like, well, what's going on? Why don't you want to spend time with me anymore? Like, and
Yeah,
it may
'cause
not even be romantic. It just could be just you just lost interest in
yeah,
being together.
it's
And
kind
that's
of all forms of neglect in a
yeah,
way.
yeah, it's a form of neglect, absolutely. And I mean, if you're going to be in a monogamous relationship, particularly, it's a give and take, and you're supposed to be, constantly wooing. You don't have to like go on dates every week, but you need to understand how your partner works
Yeah.
and and it goes into those love languages. If for some of you that might know what the love languages are, it's like what makes your partner tick, like what like I still don't know my husband's. I still don't understand his because his is all confusing. But mine is definitely like physical touch. And I like I like gifts, but like I like the gifts of like service and stuff too. And on mine to other people is service. I like to give service. And so my like but I still haven't understood my husband's. His is confusing. He's wishy-washy, so he's hard to figure out because he buys himself his own gifts.
Yeah.
Yes, for him, he does enjoy that I cook him dinner, but like I don't know, he hasn't. He's not an easy one to crack. It's not easy crack. So,
And then
um,
there's people like me. So we've got a little bit of the entire spectrum here because
yep.
you know what yours are. It's
Mhm.
very clear. He's kind of wishy-washy, not sure. And I think all of them are like bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it should be all of them, but like usually there's one or two that are more prevalent than others. Let's see, the five love language. I'm gonna look at this
You've
one.
got physical touch, words of
Yeah,
affirmation, uh, acts of service, gift giving, and what was the fifth?
I'm looking. Hold on one second. Why are you being such a butthead? Okay, hold on. I gotta go to Google. It's been a butthead. It's been a while. And it doesn't just apply to romantic relationships.
That's
It's just for
true. Yeah.
friendships and any kind of relationship. It could be applied to anything. I actually had a book I read. I have a book upstairs that's for like nonprofits. That's how like they use love languages to show appreciation for their volunteers. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And like so it can be applied in any way. I see.
Yeah, because you need to understand yourself and them, and they need to know themselves as well, and both parties need to be authentic and honest about it because then you know how to love each other in a way that it makes them feel loved.
Yeah. Yeah. Words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch.
Physical touch, yeah.
Physical touch. So, I mean,
You even
and
said that one, and I still
I know.
forgot to name that one.
So, if you're listening, what love languages do you like to give, and like what do you like to receive? Because I feel like um these are really important things to know, like about your partner or about partners. If even if you're in an open relationship, you still like to kind of give things. Like we're all like it's a way of affection, and we show them all in different ways. We're all different people, but there's certain things that make us intrinsically us. Like for me, it's service.
Yeah,
Even to like community, I give a lot of service to my kids. That's how I show my love, is I give service. I give back. Um, and a lot of people know me for that. That's how a lot of people recognize who I am. They like know that. That's why I get taken advantage of because I give too much.
yeah, because they
But
see that you are the giver. So,
yeah,
yeah,
and I just laugh at it because I'm like, okay, so so love languages. I mean, we could talk about that topic too, but it's recognizing in a potential partner, like we're partners again, because we're not trying to like put in a box, but monogamous wise, like you just need to pay attention, and you don't have to have a written book about your partner. You just have to, and I feel like that should be done in the dating process, but you still learn along the way more stuff. And again, people change. So it may not be the same thing at the beginning of your relationship that is now in your relationship, especially when you have kids.
absolutely.
Because once you have kids, it changes a little bit of what your expectations are
And
of
what you
like
can do
and
and
what
when
you
you
can
can do
do.
it.
Yeah. And physical touch. I
Yep.
mean, you don't get to have sex all the time. I mean, we try. And of course our health changes. So like sex is different, and your mental health affects everything in there. So it's like relationships are work, but
Yeah.
they're good work. Good work. Just like friendship. It's good work.
Yeah, when you're compatible, it doesn't feel miserable. When you're
Mm-mm.
compatible, it feels pretty easy. So even like what some people might consider a rough patch, I just want to be clear for the people that are in a very toxic relationship. That's not a rough patch. That's a toxic relationship. And so being able to distinguish the difference should be pretty clear. But if you're not sure, then you should definitely seek somebody to help you figure that out, even if you just have to ask ChatGPT because
Mm.
it's a free resource. Um, but if you can, then maybe go to couples coach, a therapist, something where you have that professional kind of mediator to
Mhm.
help you figure it out and figure out your own feelings as well. And back to like you saying what you wanted out of the relationship in the very, very beginning. I did the same, but I realized that's giving a manipulator a blueprint to manipulate you, and I don't want to do that ever again. So,
I know. Maybe I didn't do it right, but again, I didn't have a lot
no,
of
it's
experience
not wrong,
alone. No,
but
but it's if
you'd
the
have
right
to know the
person.
person first.
Yeah, you're right. You have to kind of understand the person first. Yeah, absolutely. But I just told him I wasn't interested in like
Maybe some of the
I
basics.
wanted something to go further. And so I think, he could have walked away and said, "Oh, I just want a piece of ass."
Yeah.
Absolutely. But like that's not the case, and we went on dates and things like that. And so I feel like you can still be like clear about your intentions. Like it's like setting boundaries. It's like this is what I'm looking for. If you're not wanting to cross that, if you don't want that, you better say it now. Like
Right. And if
there's
they lie about it, that's not on you.
no, it's not. But you should be able to kind of recognize. Like I feel like everyone should be able to sort of recognize when somebody's like putting you on or just trying to like sweet talk it versus like telling the truth. I mean, if you spend more time talking before you start the relationship, you won't have this problem, okay, people? You got to actually spend time like getting to know people, ask questions. You can pick up on lies. It's quite easy. You can pick on like you can ask specific questions like to like kind of and I guess it's coming from being an MP, like a military police. Like I had to write statements and ask questions on statements, and like you would ask them statements after like we brought somebody in for like wrecking a vehicle, and you have to ask them these questions, and they tell you their story, but then you have them write it down, and then you ask questions based on their statement, and a lot of times it's easy to trip someone up because they are looking to lie. So you just like verify what they say, verify it.
Yeah. So interrogate.
Interrogate them. Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
nowadays you have the internet at your disposal to
Yeah.
check some of those things. So it's not very hard. Like, I don't want you to be stalkerish. Like, let's not go there, but you can go on Facebook. Like, I've seen some of these women go, oh, well, I looked up his mom's profile and like verified all these things before. And like, no, let's not do creepy stuff like that because that's like you trying to trap a person. Don't trap them into a relationship because that's not the right kind of relationship you want. Not at all.
No, God, no. Well,
Please
I
don't.
think a lot of people they check into things just as a safety
Yeah. But don't
mechanism
go there
more
trying to
than
hang out with his mom
yeah,
so that
that's
you can get a
weird.
relationship with him. Say, oh, I'm single. And do you have single, no, don't do that. That's just icky. It's icky.
And
Give it icky
desperate.
vibes. And desperate vibes. Yeah. And I'm like, so, just communicate. Like we've talked about, just freaking communicate.
Yeah.
The
And the
mom's
thing is,
art.
and like falling into toxic relationships though, it can some people are really good at it. They're really good at faking it. They're really good at mirroring. They're really good at passing the tests. And then you find out later. Like, and there's, I mean, how many even true crime cases are there where everybody was like, "Oh my God, they seemed like the perfect couple," and then he killed them all.
I think that's like the outlier,
But
there's
it
definitely
happens.
outliers. It happens.
So,
Absolutely.
and I would love to think that I am very vigilant and hyper aware of people and hopefully would understand their intentions and see through bullshit, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be scared.
Hmm.
Um, 'Cause I've done the toxic relationship thing, been bamboozled, been there, and um, so I understand it from, I guess, probably all sides, really. Um, and it does kind of, unfortunately, it should be the norm that people have honest communication and healthy relationships, but it's not. It seems
But
like it's kind of a lot harder to find now because people aren't being honest.
well, do you think that's because of how they grew up and how like what they've been subjected to? Like they've lived with, what they know?
I think there's a lot of nuance to that.
Because,
It's too
if you
complicated to
came
put a
from like,
blanket.
it's like if you came from a divorced family, or if you came from a broken relationship to family, or you lived with your grandmother and your parents didn't exist, like you, it's like that again, nature versus nurture kind of thing. Like, just like, did you learn it or did you apply what are you like mimicking other people?
Yeah. Well, I think also something that I've heard and I think is true and kind of part of the issue is if you are a good person, if you have qualities about you that are a draw, and especially if you're also attractive, you're going to attract all types, all types. But who's going to be the most likely to approach you? The ones you need to look out for.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the people that would have good intentions would just assume that you would never bother with them, or they're probably already, you know, taken, or they're like they make all these assumptions where they don't shoot their shot.
Yeah.
And the ones shooting their shot are the ones that want to tear that person down.
Yeah.
And that happens way too often. And some of them aren't necessarily going into it maliciously, but they get in the relationship and then it ends up being a toxic ass relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really, really complicated to try to make a blanket statement on it. But if everybody would just be honest, then it would be a hell of a lot easier. And honest about themselves too. Like know your own toxic shit
Yeah.
and be honest about that as well. Like nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to go into your relationship being a perfect person. And so you have to be able to admit that and
Yeah.
not force people either. There's some people that just want to, if all you want to do is hook up, then just say that.
Yeah. So I said, like, if you just want to hook up, let's do it. But like, I was looking, yeah, when you're looking for something specific, be intentional with how you approach it. Be honest too, because
Hmm.
like I think that's a lot of relationship, like especially with females, it's like they want more, but they don't. The people that they're looking and the quality of people that they're looking at is not at the same sh realm or shelf that they're looking. They need to look higher, and they're looking at the bottom tier. And of course, and I'm not generalizing because this can come from both male or female, is that there are always going to be people that are just looking to get their dick wet,
Yeah.
No offense to anybody. I mean, we can say vagina too. Just want to get the vagina wet. Yep. Um, but like, yeah, I mean, just I think have more confidence in yourself to pick somebody that is right for you. Have confidence. I think all need a little confidence booster.
Yeah.
All human. We all have flaws, but doesn't mean that you have to pick somebody at on the bottom shelf.
And leaving when you realize it's not a good fit.
Yeah. And it's okay to say no and walk away
Yeah. Yeah.
before you get in like too involved.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be extremely difficult.
I agree. And
Um,
sometimes you tie in too many things all at once. And sometimes so like be careful about how you insert yourself into their lives or vice versa. Like don't dive in too quickly because sometimes you can't get out.
yeah. And that's hard for me because I don't want that kind of separate relationship.
Mhm.
So, like, obviously, love bombing works on me because I'm like, I mean, I do deserve all these things. I love this.
Well, I mean, and if you look at mine, we kind of dived in quickly too. Like
Yeah.
but he showed up. Like He showed up and I didn't expect it. Hold on one second. This is what having kids on summer break is like. You don't have children. No privacy. If this helps you at all with relationships, no privacy.
And there's a radar. It could be so
Anything.
painful
You could be in the middle of
until,
something wonderful and then they're just like, boom.
yep, the radar will go off. Or like, getting on a call,
Hmm.
immediate
As soon as I'm on the phone.
something happens, or you start to get sexy. And
Yeah,
then,
exactly. Every single time. He has the worst radar. So I have to like pick a time that we know he's going to be asleep. Because that's the only time. But like, just like, yeah, we jumped into it, but like, I mean, he showed up. And so when the other person shows up, when you don't, they're not asking, you're not begging or anything, but they show up because they care about you, because they want to show you that they care or want to show affection. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not creepy. Like he just started showing up,
and he
like, hey,
was
I want
who
to
he
come over
said he
this weekend.
was.
Yeah, he is. He said who he said he was. And he just showed up and he kept doing it without me saying, hey, I'd like you to come down. He would just be like, I'm coming down this weekend. Okay. Like he'd ask if I had any plans or anything, but like, and then like when this is when we were dating, like he's like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with my coworkers and this because we were just dating. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna be cutting up a pumpkin or whatever, because I was in culinary school at the time. And um, you know, I and this is another topic. When is the right time to say I love you? I don't freaking know. I'm going to tell you that right now. I have no idea.
I don't
It
know
just
if I can
kind of
answer that one
came up,
either.
and I didn't say it. He did, and it just kind of came up, and I think I was a little longer to say it than he was, but which was fine. Like it doesn't have to happen at the same time. Don't feel rushed to like, but also don't feel like if he's like, well, why didn't you, or this person saying, why didn't you say I love you back? Like that's on your time. Do
Yeah.
not feel like you have to rush it. If you know, you know. And if you don't feel like you love that person, you need to say it right away. Like don't let them continue to have this narrative of like, I'm in love with them. They're gonna be with me. If you don't, you can grow to love somebody, absolutely. But if you know it's not gonna work, don't continue it because you're just gonna like hurt the inevitable and it's gonna be worse. And that person may try to do something more negative that could affect you negatively, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and I think that also hurts the other person too
Mhm.
if you're, you know you're not in love with somebody and you feel like you might never actually get there, but you're not presenting that way with them and they're in love, then that's gonna hurt. And it's really not fair for anybody
Mhm.
to do that. So it's so simple. I don't know why people have to complicate it, but if you are just honest and have good communication, that's all it takes to have a good relationship, a good friendship, a good everything. Honest and good communication. That is all it takes. Because everything else from there can either be worked on, built on, or you realize, well, that's not a good fit. And for whatever reason, that is too, a lot of people can't even handle that much.
Yeah. Kitty cat.
No, he's in my lap.
Oh. Well, yeah. So like relationships, be honest. Don't give too much away, obviously,
Yeah.
because you don't want them to know everything. But I think online dating takes a lot of that away because people like put everything on there, or they pretend they're someone else. Not necessarily catfishing, but they just want to like, you know what I mean? Like if
Have
they're
a
trying to put their
persona.
they have a persona and they're trying to like build that persona because they think they're lacking in some way. And that can just give very much, it doesn't help your relationship if you start on a lie.
Yeah, definitely not. And that's going to build up expectations that you can't actually manage. And it's going to, if you're building it on a lie, then you're building it on a really rocky foundation.
Hmm.
And so even if your lie is who you want to be, but that's not who you actually are and how you're actually going to be able to show up, that's going to fall apart.
Yeah, very much.
So I just like, what is even the point in that? I don't get it. But it's I think that's what makes relationships complicated though, is
Mhm.
people just aren't being honest enough and sometimes they're not even honest with themselves.
Yeah. A lot of them don't even know that what they want. And so they enter a relationship really not knowing what they want from that relationship. And which is hard, especially if the other person does know what they want. And you're just kind of like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Don't drag somebody into that because like that's not fair.
Right.
Especially if they have like a timeline. Because like again, women typically have timelines for things. Depending on nowadays, it's changed a lot, but still, like we date for so long, we get engaged, we get married. If you want kids, like there's a timeline. We talked about that. Like modern, they put the timelines on this crap, and unfortunately, that sucks because it's like, why can't it be on my own time? But it's realistically, modern society has not provided, and even past society, there was a timeline to this. And if you look at like Regency age, there were so many calls made to a girl at her home. Like the caller would he would visit her so many times before they would be considered engaged, and then so many visits and da 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 before they got married and da da da. There's so much protocol, and
Yeah.
so
And a dowry and
yeah, I mean, but the same goes for modern societies. Like, there's how many dates does it till you are like how many dates does it take till you are actually serious in a serious relationship? And then how long is it, how many months or years is it till you are engaged? And then how long are you supposed to be engaged for? And then like once you get married, like and so on, like
yeah.
timelines.
I think if somebody has a timeline, they definitely need to recognize that and be honest about that. And then people that don't have timelines also need
Yep.
to recognize that and be open about. And if things can change too, like there's been plenty of even women who say, they're 24 and they're like, "Oh, I want to get married and have kids one day." And then they reach 30 and they're like, "I mean, yeah, I definitely want to get married." And then they're 35 and they're like, "I actually don't want to have kids."
Yeah. So
So if
there's a
something changes, you have
if
to talk about
you if you or any viewers watch, I like to watch trash TV in my mental health time. I told my therapist, it's like, I don't know what it is. It's just like it's something I don't have to necessarily pay attention to, but I really enjoy watching Southern Charm. It's the show on Peacock. And if you really want to understand relationships, watch that show. Like if you want to see dynamics of different, like not just good relationships, but like there's a few good relationships. There's a lot of toxic relationships, but there was one about this couple and they're in their 30s and the guy, he definitely wants to get married, but she's like, I'm still in my career. And I mean, they're both in their mid 30s and he's like got a timeline. He's wanting kids. So he decided he's going to freeze the sperm because he's like, I don't know when she's going to be ready. And then like his friends are like, well, when is she? Because they've been together for a while. And he's like, when is she going to be ready? Like, I mean, he's not pressuring her, but it's kind of sad because they're on two different timelines. And I'm
Yeah.
like, at what point does that kind of hurt? Because it's hurting his relationships with his friends because they're kind of worried that he's like giving up some of his own hopes and dreams for this girl.
Yeah, and that happens, and sometimes
Himself. I'm
that
like, I could
you
see
have
it
to
too.
end the relationship.
Changes. And you're like, it's kind of sad. You're like, so I don't know. I haven't like caught up fully, but like, it's just kind of sad because you're like, I wonder where this is going to go. And I wonder if they're going to still be together.
Yeah.
And, but it's like watching these relationships even on TV. It's just like, I see some of the toxic traits. I see what might not work. And why are you guys dating if you're not communicating? And I can see how social media can mess up your life too. So,
Yeah.
but totally know what you want. Be truthful to the person that you're talking to or the persons. Be
Hmm.
upfront about what you want from your relationship. At least like as far as like I want a relationship, I want to date. I don't want to just be casual hookup because you need to define that pretty especially for your own safety and your own health. Because
Yeah.
God, people can get STDs and STIs, and it's really bad. And
And don't be afraid to ask for proof that they got tested before you do
yes,
anything with
it's
them.
very healthy. Even the sex industry does it. They have to. And so don't think that it's not just a thing for like the sex industry or anything like that. It's for everybody. Everybody should be checked out once in a while for
Yeah.
their health.
I think,
Especially if you're dating multiple people and
oh, yeah,
you're
for
you're
sure.
hooking up regularly with multiple people. You should definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And for, there's a lot of men that that claim they're straight, but then they talk about being in, then, turns out they're hooking up with dudes, and it's like,
Yeah. AIDS is
okay,
still a
well,
thing.
and they don't count that to their body count
Yeah.
either. So it's like, um, so that's a thing, and you need to get tested
Yeah.
and be honest about this. It's so
And we
dangerous.
don't judge. We just want you to be safe about it. I
And
mean, just be safe.
right? Like just be honest and about because that's also taking away the consent of other people,
Hmm.
which is always a problem. Like that is my number one thing across the board. It needs to be safe, sane, and consensual. I don't care what you do, how you do it, as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual. Part of consensual depends on their age and being able to be honest.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of people are lacking that.
Yeah.
There's even some crazy people out there that they want to infect somebody.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, there's everything out there. So you really can't be too careful because there's a lot of just terrible people, and you don't really know what somebody's capable of until it's too late sometimes.
No.
So the least you can do is just try to be vigilant for yourself.
Hmm.
Get the
Because you
proof.
should be all about yourself. It should be protecting yourself above all anything. Because if you're still single and you have nobody to worry about, it should be about you.
Yeah, and if they are not willing to show you a recent screening, then that is
Red flag.
no. Walk away.
Yeah. Or and they can't be honest of how many people they've been with, and like at least in recent. I'm not asking them to give me a whole like list, but like you should be like, hey, I've slept with so many people in the last so many months. So that way you're like, okay, I definitely need to make sure you were tested, and I'm tested.
Yeah, and again, they need to be really honest about it. Like even if they don't want to give a count, then
Go get tested.
give a roundabout, between this number and that, no, something,
Yeah.
and beyond, just something that's honest, and because some people don't care about body count.
No.
But at least show test results. And if you're going to claim to have a vasectomy, be prepared to show those results as well, that there's no more swimmers, because there's been people that say that and they aren't. Or they got it done and they never got it checked.
Oh God.
Like, what do you
Don't wish
mean?
that on me. I mean, he's been good for a long time.
He should get those swimmers checked to make sure.
But I mean, I'm good, so I'm
Okay.
covered. So we would die. We would just absolutely die.
Yeah.
because we're done.
My
Because
baby box is closed.
we're done. We're 100% done.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess we're not done until we actually like say we're done, like snipping and on. Like he's snipped, but like so I'm done essentially. But I'm like, no, I don't want to have those surgeries. That's not good.
Right. Yeah. And when you're at that point where it's like, my baby box is retired, then you would like to be able to keep it that way.
I want my kids to grow up and then like they're almost there and then I'll be by my, just have my own time.
Yeah.
40s is going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and if anybody is curious about asking questions with their partner, they don't know where to start, I do have a questionnaire on my website under the workshop section.
Ooh.
It's a questionnaire for couples so they can go over. I think a lot of it might be, see, I wrote this last year. It was extensive. A lot of it is like sexy questions. But you need to
Mm.
know if you're compatible in that way too. Very important.
And people change. So just because you've been married for a while doesn't mean that your sex life doesn't change. It does.
And it
It
should.
need changes, which is okay. Like again, we all evolve and change, and things that worked before don't. And of course, we get older, our body changes, so we don't have the same sensations down there, and so what worked before doesn't work the same as it needs to. So like you find other ways to enjoy that, and that's totally fine. So
Mhm.
finding what works for you, and with a husband with chronic illness, sometimes affects the time we spend together. So just because there's no number on how much sex you can have in a week or a month, whatever works for you as a couple and that you're happy to do it. And if you can find other ways to define that
Mhm.
intimate time, even if it's not together and you guys are okay with it on your own, one on one, totally fine too. But you guys have to be willing to talk about it.
Yeah, you definitely have to be honest about that,
Like,
especially if there's going to be some solo activities.
hmm. And just be like, I'm going to do solo. And because, like, at some point, you're like, we're not there's not a ability for us to always do it together or anything, especially because, you know, my man's been overseas over a lot. So like there's a lot of solo going on with ourselves.
It's the worst.
It's the
When you're
worst.
like in a relationship, but you're not getting any relationship
No,
benefits.
but then you have your honeymoon phase when they get back. It's amazing. So it's always good. Anyway.
I think, yeah, and also, if you're in a really good relationship, then you would be able to say like, man, we're in a rut right now. How can we spice this up?
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty honest. Like, and I don't know. I tell people we talk while we have sex, and people are like, you talk. I'm like, yeah, like it's fun. We can laugh while we have sex. It's like normal. If you can laugh in your most intimate moments, I mean, to me, it's a good win because like you can enjoy each other. You can laugh at the stupid things,
Yeah.
because you make weird noises and you do weird stuff, and sometimes things
Get
just
weird.
get weird. I mean, they do. And so you just kind of have to laugh at them
Yeah.
and enjoy it for what it is, even if it's like, hey, we're not all coming together tonight.
Yeah.
Sometimes the fun is in the play and not the actual event. So remember that. That's my key.
Yeah. It's and a good relationship is going to be able to talk about it and be able to say like, I didn't really like that, or I
Yeah.
don't really like this, and can we try that? And
Getting interrupted, you're just like, well, I didn't get a chance to. We'll try it again next time.
yeah.
You know, it's not a big deal. It's just life.
Yeah. Or
And
if you can't get to the finish line, like just not happening today.
yeah, sometimes that's just how it is. It's just like, nope, not happening.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're not attracted or not. It's just stamina and a lot of other things.
A lot of factors can go into play, especially being in, you know, life, stress and medical stuff and being in a long-term relationships. But again, like being able to actually just not, if unless it's a pattern, if it becomes
Yeah.
a pattern, that's a problem to address.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask a doctor. It's totally fine.
Men
Like
are so, their ego is so attached to that that it's like, come on.
surprising when I mentioned it to my husband because he has a chronic illness. For those of you that didn't listen to the last podcast, my husband has chronic illness and it affects a lot of things, especially stamina. And I had mentioned recently because he's getting ready to retire from his job in the military. It's like, you need to mention this because this is something that you did not have, especially with this chronic illness. Like this is something that's come with that, and because he's 37, he'll be in his 40s, and that's when have the most hardest difficult time. That's when they go through their midlife crisis and they have depression and anxiety and things that come up that they did not have before. And so I don't want him to feel like he can't come. I'm like, go talk to the doctor. It's fine. It's normal. A lot of men do have that happen to them. And so I'm like, it's normal. And so I don't want men to feel like they can't talk about it. Like if you're a man listening to this podcast, it's okay.
Yeah.
We are encouraging you to go if you're
A,
having problems. Like
a good
encouraging.
partner is going to be supportive.
And we're supporting you as a friend, as a podcast listener. We're supporting you. Go talk to a doctor if you need to, or go to a therapist. I mean, there's a lot of things out there.
Yeah,
If you just need somebody to talk to before you see a doctor, if you're like worried about seeing a doctor, go see a therapist. They might give
definitely.
you some good advice, or you can
Yeah.
talk to us.
Or even just the courage to get past your ego and go
Yeah.
go say what's going on.
Because I can't imagine being a man. I know that being a woman is hard and there's lots of things we go through, but I know that men go through just as many emotions and issues too. And so it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. I tell people that all the time. It's okay not to be okay. Get through it.
Yeah, it can be really, really, really hard to kind of feel that vulnerability. And I think a lot of them, when it comes to that too, and they get performance anxiety, and it's like, okay, it's fine to talk about that. It's okay to like try to work through that. And because you don't want them to be anxious about stuff or like feel shitty because it
Hmm.
didn't go a perfect way. And so a good partner is going to actually meet you where you're at and be able to talk
Hmm.
about it and discuss it
Hmm.
and figure out, just figure it out. And um, that really goes both ways, though. Like they
Hmm.
both have to be able to be supportive and talk about it.
Yeah.
And if he's not talking about it, addressing it, or anything like that, that's not gonna help the situation at all.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I think it's such an important part of a relationship that it needs to be something that is addressed. And if things need to get discussed or spiced up or whatever, people that just ignore it, it never goes well. It never goes well. Because it can
Yeah.
be really easy to just, if you kind of lose the connection with each other, it can be really easy to let that totally fall to the wayside.
Hmm. And you can let it make you become bitter. You can become bitter from it. And then that's when people start to look elsewhere for that satisfaction and because they're not communicating in the right way. You can communicate, but you can also communicate wrong. So communicating gently and in the right way to your partner
Yeah.
is really important. Like,
Yeah. Not attacking.
yeah, and being understanding and trying to be meet them at their level because we know ego is a big thing for men and women. It's the opposite. It's they get in their feelings. They can get quite emotional, and sometimes that can also be intrusive and not helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Men are way more emotional than they will ever admit to being. It's like, I've seen your team lose and how you get, you're emotional. And you can communicate because I've seen you talk to your friends on Xbox. And how you navigate your map.
That's right.
Y'all love the excuses though. No, but yeah, just it's finding somebody that's actually really compatible is the hard part. But once you have that, then you just have to be able to maintain that.
Uh-huh.
And as long as you're not just, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that would rather just give up, because that's the easier route than trying to work through things. It's like kind of makes marriage scary because you're in this big time commitment and then they could just give up on that. Sometimes it's needed. I love divorce. I think it's a great thing.
I mean, I do believe it's needed at times, like absolutely. And that's because people aren't communicating and doing the right things
Yeah,
for each other, with each other, you know, those words for and with, you guys are a partnership. You're not by yourselves in the
yeah,
marriage. You guys, even if you have your own hobbies and your own things for yourself, absolutely. I believe that everybody should have their own things, but I also believe that you need to have things in common. You need to communicate together. You need to communicate with each other. You need to make the effort, and it is work. It's not a cakewalk every day. There are things, but I will say, like, because my husband and I communicate so well, we don't fight. We might have arguments, but we do not fight. We don't. I can probably name on one, and I have one time that he's yelled at me, and that's because I deserved it because I antagonized him really bad, and I don't even remember the issue, but it was something specific, and it like that was the only time he's ever yelled at me ever because he's a quiet person. So it got to him yelling, I really pissed him off, and she knows him, so she knows he's
yeah.
quiet. He's very quiet. And most people that meet him, he sits on the couch at like when we're with other people, and he just sits on the couch quietly, and everybody's like, he's so quiet. I'm like, I don't know what to do with him. Don't know.
Yeah, because there were many times where we would sit on the couch quietly together, just watching TV.
Yeah, you and him are like perfect peas in the pod. We don't have to talk about nothing. You just want to
Don't
talk
have to
about
talk about
hunting,
it.
fishing, hunting,
Comfortable
fishing.
silence. But
Yeah,
at the same time, like get on these long conversations about a particular subject.
yeah, he could.
It's the introvert way.
Yeah, I mean he's an introvert, but little bit like my daughter likes to say he's an ambivert, ma. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I could see that, yeah.
with the right crowd, with the right people, he is absolutely. But he is true, like he is an introvert to some extent. Like he likes the quiet,
Yeah,
and
he doesn't need the
he does not need people
explanation.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm definitely
That's what's hard about a relationship.
introvert.
So I need people and he doesn't. And I'm like, that's why he lets me, I don't say he lets me, but like I have my hobbies and I have people and I volunteer because I don't get that obviously from him because he likes solitude.
Yeah. I think extroverts need their hobbies. Like if especially if you are in a relationship with an introvert, you're gonna have to be able to have your
You have to be independent because
yeah.
he's going to be his own independent in his own quiet place.
I think most introverts don't really need that.
Yeah,
Like we're just good. Like
yeah, yeah, he's just good wherever he's at. I'm like, okay, bye,
yeah.
bye.
That's
Well,
why a
I'm
lot
gonna
it's
have to get off, lady. We'll have to end this because I'm gonna have to do
oh
some
yeah.
later. So, but conversations are good.
Yeah. Open
Visitors
honest
are good.
conversation for sure. We'll do another one soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All links, everything will be in the show notes. And yeah,
Thank you for listening.
thanks for coming by.
Bye.
Bye.